Hey everybody, welcome back. It's time for another mission briefing, Fleetyards style. Ha! I changed the opening a little bit because we've been filming these all day. I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Cockins. On, guys.
And today, of course, as always with the Fleetyards mission briefings, we're going to be looking at one of the ships from, well, sci-fi. And there's lots of sci-fi franchises out there. Did I say sci-fi? I tend to do that. Sci-fi franchises out there. So what are we looking at? Oh, and I got to mention, too, that all of these renders, of course, are done by Samuel, and they're beautiful. And he sometimes uses fan models, sometimes actual studio assets, and, you know, things used in the actual shows.
If we're
but
lucky.
they're 1080p, glorious, high-detailed, zoomed right in pictures so we can look at the, you know, the Nernies and Greeblies that are on the ship and talk about them.
Perfect. But this week, Stuart, we're looking at, I think it's one of our most requested ships, actually, since we started. It's a classic. It is the Eagle from Space 1999. The future, Stuart. The future.
The Eagle Transporter. Yes, I actually know a little bit about this ship.
I'll let you take over then, Stuart. I'll let you do the. I've seen, I think, one episode. It's come out a long time ago. I saw it as well as a kid, but it didn't grab me. This, I think, is classic design, but I'll let you be the guide then, Stuart.
Yeah, I've seen multiple episodes, but it was a long time ago. I haven't seen a whole lot, but my brother used to have the little moon base model that had the little eagles on it, and as a kid, I used to play with them all the time.
Nice.
And since I'm big in since I go to Wonderfest and stuff, there's a lot of eagle models there because it's one of the most popular ones. And they recently just released a new kit, so I've heard a lot about the Eagle over the last 2 years. So anyway, yes, as we've discussed, it's called the Eagle Transporter,
Yes.
and it was from the show Space 1999.
Which was not made in 1999 because that would be ridiculous.
Made in the 70s.
Yes, let me just refine. Oh, apparently the Eagle Transport was launched June 2nd, 1992. So 1 year and like 7 days before my birthday, before my literal birth. So it's just a little. The Eagle's just a little bit older than I am. In the fictional world of Space 99. The actual Space 99 was made between 1975 and 1979. I was very much not born there.
That was made a year after I was born. I was born in 74. So.
Oh, that's wonderful, isn't it?
It is. It's beautiful.
Synergy, Stuart. We both have a link to this. So do you remember a first impression of the ship? And if not a first impression, just now I guess being overloaded with people saying it's amazing.
My first impression was, like I said, with my brother's little model, these tiny little eagles, and I used to play with them and lose them on him, and he hated me for it. But I thought they were really cool, and I loved seeing them in the show, you know, doing their thing. I was a kid at the time, very young, and so yeah, I don't really remember my first thoughts of them. I just remember playing with them all the time. So it's kind of like a special one for me, I guess, from my childhood.
Well, what do you think now then? Do you like the design? Do you think it works? I mean,
absolutely. It's like the pickup truck of the future. It's so configurable and stuff, and yeah, it's a great design. Very simplistic and very utilitarian. It would actually be something that we would design to transport cargo and supplies. So
I will disclaimer here, and it's, I guess, be embarrassed about, but I talked to my dad, who was very much in love with the ship, and he's asked for this since the start, as a lot of you have, and I had a little quick briefing with him before this all started, just so I didn't seem ridiculous. And he actually, wow, okay, thank you there, Stuart. And he made me realise, actually, I'd always thought the scaffolding made it look very, not cheap, just, I didn't necessarily get it. But then he explained that the middle pod comes out, and the scaffolding is what keeps the whole thing together. Which without understanding the middle bit comes out, I just thought it was basic structural. But you now understand that actually that is the ship. That's the ship that keeps it together, and the pieces are attached to the scaffolding, which makes it super. Like now I think it's far cleverer. Which happened literally like an hour ago. We talked about it. So I'm much more literally today I've now found the appreciation for design making sense. But hey, I never watched the show, and again, we at Fleetyards Mission Briefing, we actually dissect these things like you never have before. So,
and it's a cool ship for that very reason, because you can drop that center module, and there's different modules you can attach. Passenger modules, cargo modules. Yep. Actually, there's a list here. Hold on, I'll scroll down. So passenger, reconnaissance, VIP modules,
champagne
rescue,
included, obviously.
obviously, and a waterbed. Transport and supply modules, docking modules, freighter,
Hmm.
laboratory, and winch modules. And combat
Okay.
modules, apparently. Ooh, combat modules. Very cool. I didn't know about that.
So it's kind of like, even though we never see it on screen, the runabout from Star Trek also has the middle part,
Yes.
losable,
I'm
changeable.
pretty sure that this was an inspiration for that aspect of the runabout. Pretty sure Rick Sternbach's a huge fan of Space 1999.
I think a lot of people were at the time. I think it was a big deal and looking forward to the future. Like I say, I obviously missed it a bit, and which
Yeah.
which is fair enough. Interesting story. I do know the storyline. The moon. They're on the moon. The moon gets then flung out for some reason, and they have to be lost in the cosmos trying to get it back. It's a wonderful concept. Although I think they'd probably all die because it's a pretty ridiculous situation to be in. I mean, losing all contact with your mother planet. The moon can't really do that much on the moon without adding it to yourself. Back to the design for a second. So you said you really like it. I think I like it more now. It's always been an iconically British sci-fi ship to me. Now I get the function of it. It's like I always had this equation: 1 + 1 = don't care. Now I have 1 + 1 = 2, and now I see it for what it's meant to be, which I really appreciate. It is very much you could build this now, today.
Hmm?
Not even a question. You could build this today. Wouldn't necessarily be the most ideal shape, but I think in a low gravity atmosphere like the moon, this sort of design is amazing. You just takes less fuel to get up, move it, come down, you move things.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily for Dad said it travels between your Earth and the moon. I think that is less useful for you need something more bigger and dedicated. But between an individual planet's surface, I think it's a wonderful design. Actually, I think it still holds up pretty much.
I would agree with most of that. I think it's good for between the moon and Earth, based on the tech that they were trying to go for at the time. It does have the big booster rockets and stuff, which you don't really need those necessarily when you're just going from site to site on the moon. I think it's more like a hopper then. I think the hardest part of building this today would be the vertical takeoff and landing aspect of it. But we'll talk more about the chemical rockets and stuff a little bit later, I think.
Yeah, let's go to the next picture then, I guess. Oh
Absolutely.
shit, scale. I forgot about scale.
Oh.
Don't go next picture. Wait, we're not going to scale.
Oh.
What's the scale? Wow, I'm so interested in just talking to you about it. I forgot about the whole premise of the show. What about scale? Stuart, you know the ship. And you can't tell, but what is the scale of the ship?
I believe the cockpit is a two-person cockpit, from what I recall. Lengthwise, I'm thinking a little bit longer, maybe twice the size of let's say, a runabout from Star Trek.
Interesting.
Possibly.
Yeah, actually, this model does not represent it, but each of those... so you've got the bridge module, you've got those two slits in the front, they're actual windows, they're meant to be transparent, a person's meant to sit in each one. And not with much else space, so it's pretty small actually, and you can see, there's a detailed picture later on, you'll see at the side there on the pod there's a door. So you can pretty much see the scale of the ship, but if you go to the next picture then, there is... with a whole variety of other sci-fi shows, ships, guys, that you haven't seen before. And again, as we always say, it's the real Type 9 from Trek, real Delta Flyer, real Firefly, real Death Glider, real Star Fury, real Raptor, fan runabout,
And
fan
that's real
experiment.
impressive.
Yeah, it kind of is actually, isn't it? We sort of take it for granted here. But yeah, I thought I'd throw in, the cargo ship Firefly and the cargo ship runabout. What do you think about that, Stuart?
It's actually a little bit smaller than I anticipated, to be honest. Like I said, I thought it was probably longer than the runabout. It seems to be just roughly the same size.
Yeah, absolutely. If you take out the engines, it's like the exact same length, I'd say.
Yeah, which kind of surprised me. I thought it'd be a little bit bigger than that. But, as far as a cargo transport goes, with the two-person cockpit, this actually makes a lot of sense.
I'm actually really impressed how similar and actually stylistically you can see the vague continuation of the runabout to the Eagle. I mean, this really is, the Eagle is the NASA version, and then the runabout is the future version. I mean, it is so paralleled, it's kind of crazy. Although if you take out the cockpit of the runabout and make it that single two-person chair, you've got extra space. The back bit, there's a lot of space on the runabout you never got to see. It isn't just that singular front bits. So we never really got a really feel of how big the thing is. But it is a functional spaceship. It's not just a shuttle, it's a starship. So if it's 100% cargo, you can fit a decent amount of stuff in there. And it's, a lot smaller than the Firefly. It Runabout, the Delta Flyer shows you can fit quite a lot of stuff into that. But obviously it's a cargo ship, not a fighter. So all the other smaller fighter craft, it kind of impresses me how, again, BSG is a very small ship-based universe. I mean, look how small that Raptor is. It's also their cargo ship. It also is more person cargo, a few bits and bobs, but that is their equivalent of the cargo ship, and how efficiently small that is, in comparison to everything else in this chart.
Speaking of charts, let's go to the next one.
Oh.
And see it from the side. Oh, see, I like it compared to the Millennium Falcon there. Again, the Falcon, I always think it's so much bigger compared to a Runabout when I just first think about it, but then you compare the cockpit sizes, and the Falcon's not that big.
And I think if we ever got on the set of Star Wars 8 or 9, and we could walk around the Millennium Falcon, you can physically see, because they built it, you can physically see, oh, it's this big. Huh.
Yeah.
I've walked around it all. Damn, that was quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take the tour. We're done. What? Yeah. What do you think about this, though? So, again, it gives a different perspective.
Yeah, I have no problem with it at all. I mean, that's a good-sized cargo module. Not as big as it probably could be. I think you could have made the Eagle a little bit bigger.
But again, very not advanced. I mean, this is the most bare bones ship in this armada that you see hanging by. I'd even say, the colonial ships are more advanced. I mean, not just for the obviously FTL is the jump, but even though the Viper. I mean they could. I'm sure the Viper's faster, ironically, than the Eagle.
Oh yeah, I would imagine so.
And the engines are far smaller because they're just more advanced. I would again say that I do think the amount of cargo it can hold is about the same as the Runabout. Feels about the same, but compared to Serenity, obviously that's a 2-floor cargo module, but actually it's about the same size, the cargo space. So that actually gives you a good sense of how much space you can fit in there, which is a pretty decent chunk of stuff. And then compared to the Falcon, these were designed not that far apart. It's interesting how radically different you can design something, to look more advanced but have greeblies, and then to look hyper real. And if you put them together flying in sort of formation, it'd be so like, wow, this is a world apart, or I guess a galaxy apart, as is the case of Star.
Anyway, and a long time apart. But anyway, let's move on to the next picture. This shows a detail of the back of the ship with the huge...
And again, fan model disclaimer.
Yeah. With the huge thruster nozzles, which I've heard a lot about lately, because there's a company... There's a new, like I said, a new Eagle model that just came out, but there's a company that's releasing milled steel or metal parts for these thrusters to give them a little bit more realistic look, and it's a nice add-on piece for the model. Ooh. So I've seen some of them, and they're very cool. I mean, they're very reminiscent of the ones on the shuttle. And they are, of course, liquid fueled, rocket fuel there. So I think it's fantastic. This was kind of developed around the same time as the shuttlecraft, the shuttle that NASA's been using. So for them to take that piece of modern day technology and go, okay, 30 years in the future, we're going to be having something that's very similar to that still, I think was a very good idea. And I think it still holds up today. A lot of thrust there when you think about it for the size of that ship.
Yep.
Especially on low gravity like the moon. We need very little fuel to move around the moon. But to go from Earth to the moon, I can see this being a possibility.
Yeah, you'd need that thrust to make it. I mean, if you can have continuous thrust for a few, even hours, whatever, you can really, speed up that journey. And if you want to be a hop between, I mean, you don't want it in weeks, do you? So,
you got to think. There's not a lot of weight to that Eagle. It's basically It's basically just scaffolding and a structure that doesn't have a lot of mass to it. You have your cargo module. That's pretty much your weight right there. So to propel that through space would not take a lot of fuel.
And honestly, by having just scaffolding, that's a wonderful concept. I mean, you're obviously missing out. You could put extra circuitry in that. You could put scientific equipment or breathing units or whatever in that. But by not having that, like I say, the weight is so minimal, and obviously you're burning part of the weight as you're thrusting.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is going to be super, super, super light. I mean, it'll probably need far less thrust than the normal, shuttle things. What about this model though is it looks super practical. I mean, you've just got these big engines which connect to fuel, which connect to these secondary fuel. Presumably, one's like the liquid fuel, one's the ignition store. The different chemicals combine to create. It's not just exploding fuel. It's a process, isn't it, that creates thrust. So they're always intertwined, but just connects to the scaffolding. Like, honestly, I would be. Well, it's one of those things where I feel as if they're looking at the future in respect to that tech, but also they're saying, right, well, there's this very dangerous zone. We're still using the basis of the NASA technology, but it doesn't look safe to me, personally, like how limited things are around it. But at the same time, it's had 30 years to iterate and improve. So they've got so advanced in that 30 years of this fictional timeline to 1999 that this sort of thing is so everyday that you can just chuck them together and you know exactly what it's going to do, and it's safe. So you've almost gone so far beyond the worry level of being all so close that you've now, it's fine, it's just there,
Yeah.
Which I love. It gives it a great vibe.
Yeah, I'm looking at the specs on Wikipedia, and it says propulsion is nuclear fusion rockets.
Oh.
So I don't know if those are mini nuclear fusion reactors back there, like shrunk down nuclear reactors.
Wow.
Which would be a good advancement of the tech, and would be a lot safer, I would assume, than actual liquid or solid fuel even.
Well, it'd make more sense for a show when they're having to go across the galaxy accidentally, and then, if you had limited fuel, well, if all the Eagles are grounded, that's pretty rubbish, but, I mean, nuclear is a much more... Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it should be noted, too, that it goes 15% the speed of light, which is pretty quick when you think about it.
Yeah. And it lowers the weight even more. If all you have to have is a reactor module, or I guess however many there are there, even less weight. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. But let's go to the next picture, which gives you a different perspective. Now, this is actually a thought I was having a few minutes ago. I was thinking, I didn't see it as going between Earth and the Moon, because how do you lift off from the Earth practically? But look, there are 8 nozzles for thrust. That's quite a lot of nozzles.
Yeah, especially, and I can see them using all 8 to get off of Earth's surface. For the Moon, you probably only need 4. You wouldn't 4 just to distribute the thrust, front and back. You don't think you'd really need the middle modules so much, unless you have a really, really heavy cargo module there, perhaps.
Well, especially if it's all nuclear powered. I mean, that's a wonderfully continuous energy source for this sort of engines. And the way it's distributed actually now makes a lot more sense to me. And I render these, but I don't really look at them because it would ruin it a little bit. But if you start with all 8, so you get off the ground, you get into the air, half a mile up, and then you stop the bottom 2, so now you have a trajectory up. Then you fire the back ones, which is the real thrust, which gets you up. So you can create your own slanting thing and then just go up or diagonal. You wouldn't just vertically go into the atmosphere. You would get high enough, make an angle, then boost up, and that would probably be pretty straightforward to get into the atmosphere, actually, especially with how big those thrusts seem to be. So okay, I'm sold on that.
Yeah, I am too. That makes perfect sense, especially even on Earth's atmosphere. A little more thrust from your front ones as you're taking off, or from the ones closer to the front.
Yep.
Get a little bit of that angle.
Yeah, exactly.
Climbing angle, and then hit the big engines at the back to really get the thrust out of there. So yeah. Now I know this has reaction control thrusters, but we'll see a close up of those in a minute, I think.
Yeah, we can see them. I just noticed 2 more really excellent things actually in this shot. It's got 4 little landing legs next to the internal 2 thrusters, which I'm guessing helps it keep if it needs to just be flat, it can be flat. But the 4 big legs, which again might not be the real one, but I'm pretty sure it is. The way they come out looks as if they can just go right back into the pods.
Yeah.
And it actually creates this wonderful effect of this sort of jigsaw piece. Well, I don't know if the space is right for it to be able to come together. Unless the top bit goes in a little bit as well. But I mean, I'd love to see it combined, because I always remember seeing them being deployed. I have zero memory of them together.
Well,
so...
Wow. Yeah, because in the show, I mean, once it leaves Earth's orbit, you're not going back and forth to Earth. I don't think you'd really need to raise those legs. Because you're just hopping from one one part to the other part of the moon.
But I think it'd look very cool, very sleek, and very like simple, and just a neat little spacecraft. Actually, I think it would look very, very good.
Yeah, it's a great use of space there for those landing legs.
Yeah, and just design. I mean, it's good. It's good design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to the next picture. This close up of the front of the ship.
It really should have the windows. I apologise, but they weren't part of this model. I'm sure I can get it modified though to have them. But yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely detail in this model.
Absolutely, yes. So, just wondering what that blue circle is on the side there.
I don't know. Do you have any gut feelings?
Well, I know it has some weapons, ironically enough. I don't think that would be one of them, though. I think those little ball turret thingies on the upper part of the landing legs might be... Because it's supposed to have a laser gun, laser turret, space-to-space missiles. Now,
Well,
this could be in the combat module as well.
Yeah, from what Dad was saying, they do equip some versions with laser cannons later on. Also, there are specialised ones with more guns. Yeah, that would make sense for it to be little laser emplacements, but I have a feeling they wouldn't necessarily change the model and just come out of somewhere. They wouldn't put as much thought into where they...
And the thing is, some people know this model like the back of their hand, this ship. They know every little detail about it. So we're going to hear the comments down below of what things really are. It's also got a force field and anti-gravity radiation screens.
Really?
Which makes sense for going through like the Van Allen radiation belt and stuff like that.
Force fields? I wouldn't have thought force fields. That's interesting.
Yeah. And heat shields for atmospheric entry, I'm sure. So there's a lot of stuff packed into this little package. So I would love to know more specifics about the tech, and like I said, I'm sure a lot of people out there know that. So please put it in the comments below.
And honestly,
this would be a great episode for a full episode. This ship.
Yeah, a lot of shots of, and again, we haven't seen the Eagle, and again, not to brag, but also I've learned to do things looking good at the real models. I can light these ships pretty nicely, so you can imagine some wonderful high def, animations of it flying and moving, which we haven't really seen since it was out. That would be pretty wonderful for all the fans out there. But the next picture is a close up on the two little pods, the sort of landing leg thruster pods, and I think that really is just all they are. You need chemical thrust for this stuff, so I'm sure that's just chemical thrust, landing legs, and probably like maybe some emergency air or something in these zones. Maybe there's also panels on the outside. Maybe also if you pull a panel aside, there are oxygen masks inside and some little fuel, edible resources. So just because these are the bits that stay with the ship. So if it's going in between, like you wouldn't design all of the emergency supplies in the cargo module, because guess what, it's getting replaced all the time. You design them in the only other piece of tech in the whole ship. You've only got the front bit, then the engines and these bits. So I would add this stuff to them.
Mm-hmm. And this is the shot actually I was waiting for. Is the close up on those reaction control thrusters. Little bursts of like air or whatever to just I think, and the placement of those is great. Like this thing would be very maneuverable, and for a cargo ship, that was really something you'd need to make sure you don't crash into whatever you're delivering your cargo to. So I think it's really, the design of this was really thought out and really well done.
Yeah, it's also, well, you can see why it's iconic, because it's just like a Trek ship. It does actually 1 + 1 = 2 for the ship. It does make sense. I think that the fact that it has these little thrusters, if you're not looking at it, you necessarily won't see it, but the fact that that's what real tech looks like adds so much legitimacy, to the design, just by... And I really like that. Well, I will throw out the little detail that's been bugging me, the thing just above the RCS thrusters. What do you think all that is?
Those circles?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Not much to go on.
No, but there's like 4 cylinders there. Maybe there's compressed air or something for the reaction control thrusters.
Well, I was about to say, what if the middle bit is a nozzle? It's just a fuel restocking. You just put a nozzle in, and you're right, 4 tubes of compressed air. That's wonderful, and then the nozzle in the middle fills them up. Yeah.
We're just spitballing here, guys. We don't know for sure, but I'm sure somebody out there knows exactly every detail of this ship. So
yes,
please
but Next picture is a top view of the engines again. Just shows a bit of a perspective change. I mean, it's interesting and it's fun to see all different tubes, all different engine-y things, and not a lot to say for this one, I don't think, but just another fun perspective on it.
I do like the fact that there's little mini nuclear reactors there, probably. And it's a great evolution of the tech for 30 years in the future that they were anticipating, right?
Yeah.
So.
That's interesting. Yeah. Why shouldn't the small ones be the nuclear reactors, which then push the fuel, the energy into the. I mean, what this is, it's a nozzle, which is the place the energy comes out of. If the big ball bit is the bit where it goes into and then obviously fires up and then goes out. I mean, it makes sense. The energy just goes directly into the other thing. Yeah. Very nice.
All right. So next shot, we got a close up of the side and the door. I assume that's a door.
Yeah, looks like it.
Probably like a cargo unloading door. I don't know if this is a cargo module or which module is attached to this. Probably cargo, because that's the most common one that they used.
Yeah.
So.
And I just love that it can just come out very easily. I think of it as like the runabout, but I remember this came first. It gives you a sense of scale. It's definitely not a big ship. Definitely not a big ship, but super functional. So I guess onto the last picture, which I think I lit it pretty well. This first picture, I think it really nice. Works well. So this is the Eagle. I mean, closing thoughts there, Stuart.
Fantastic design. Very real world. Very. And you watch the show and you see the chintzy costumes and the bad special effects. You're like, eh. But when you actually look at the ship and pay attention to the details and realize how much thought was put into it, it really stands out as one of the most iconic ships in sci-fi. Just for that reason, it's so simplistic and so real world that I think it works. It really resonates with people, and it's like Star Trek that way. They're kind of more real world approaches to designing ships than just the fantastical. So awesome design.
Yeah, I think it stands out because it is, like I said, real world. It was also different. It's got a very organic front module, which gives it a different feel, kind of like a snake's head. If it's just a rectangle, it wouldn't work as well. But it has a wonderful little feel. The engine pods they're not just squares; they're an interesting geometric shape with a wonderful landing configuration. The scaffolding, you don't see that sort of way. That's a wonderful idea. The module and the engine's very normal. But I think it's a ship that is more than the sum of its parts. I think that's what this ship is, and when you put them all together, it actually becomes a very, very good-looking ship that really works. And a lot of ships don't necessarily continue past their, being designed point. This, I think, looking at out of context, if NASA designed this, if they said, "Oh, we're going to build this sort of design," you would not say, "NASA, it's a '70s design." You'd say, "Oh, cool."
Yeah, it should be. It goes back to what you said at the beginning of this episode. Like, you could build this today. It'd be pretty simplistic to build. If NASA had the budget, they could build this.
Yeah. I mean, the nuclear reactors maybe not so much, but everything else.
They've miniaturized those quite a bit. I'm sure they could actually do that.
Well,
to be
guys,
perfectly honest,
it might not be 1999 anymore, but we love some retro tech. So go back to the 1999 drawing board, guys. 1992 was a golden year of fictional design.
Space 2019.
Well, they did a future show, didn't they? I think anyway. But
well, they're remastering this as Space 2099. I think is what they're calling it.
There you go.
Which is a little bit of a stretch, but yeah, it's just the original show, just cleaned up a bit. But anyway.
So anyway, guys, hope we did it justice. A lot of you guys asked for this. I think this was a fun episode, which I'm really happy with how it's turned out. And yeah, great ship. And there you go, Dad. You asked.
There you go. My brother Steve, he liked this show too, so there you go.
We do it for you guys too. Come on.
That's right. So if you like the show, guys, which you better have, because you're related to us, hit like.
Yep.
If you're not related to us, please hit like also, and share it around. Definitely worth it. Don't forget the little bell notification. If you want to tune into everything we release, that gives you a little heads up as to when we're releasing stuff, which is every day, as we tend to torture ourselves. but that's okay.
But if you want to support this torture, this self-made torture, you can support us in two ways. Either at trekyards.com, go to that donate button and give what you can as a one-time donation to help the show costs, or Patreon, which is a great service that helps YouTubers like us. It's just a monthly donation service. You put in an amount, $5, $10, $50, $100. Hey, people have given $100 before, and we love them when they have. And every month, we get it. Helps to keep the costs of the show, helps to keep us going, helps to pay the rent, helps to us to buy new kit, all the things that help. 7 shows come to you every week. Pretty incredible, and we love doing it, but we need your support because this is a job for me. This is, Stuart's part-time job / other passion in life, and we want to expand or do more. And that $1,000 goal was just the start. Got to keep going up. More and more we get, the more and more we can do. It's as simple as that, guys, and you've seen Prometheus, you've seen Pegasus, you know what we can do. We want to do more, so support us.
Yeah, and I think that this is definitely one of those ships that'll be next up in the lineup as far as full episodes go, because I'm really, really excited to get into this, to the meat of it, and do the research and get the details and facts on it. So,
I love starting a show with less enthusiasm, ending with way more. So it's always a fun feeling. So until next time, and another enthusiastic, hopefully, ship. I'm Connor Cummings.
And I'm Captain Foley.
I will see you next time.
On to the future, to 1999.